Welcome to MI Radio's Myanmar Today. I'm Melody, and here are today's reports. COVID-19 cases in Myanmar reach beyond 2,000. Dealers reboot automobile market by selling 10% to 20% below market price. Myanmar's arts and crafts see decline in demand from home and abroad amid pandemic. Mandalay's art and craft sector adapts new form amid COVID-19 pandemic. Before we get to the reports, let's take a look at the featured local news for today. State Councillor Daw Aung San Suu Kyi reports to people regarding the need for strict compliance with regulations and directives to stop the spread of COVID-19. She said, quote, "Right now we have issued rules and regulations with regard to Yangon region. Some might think that these rules and regulations are too restrictive. However, if we all obey these restrictions strictly for 2 or 3 weeks, we can arrive at a situation when this disease would be under control. That is why I urge all of you to obey the rules and regulations. When we say rules, we should think about its meaning. The first point is to protect oneself. The next thing is to protect others. By obeying the rules and regulations, first of all, you are protecting yourself," end quote. She continued on saying, quote, "The pandemic could be controlled if individuals follow simple guidelines for wearing masks, gloves, and staying 6 feet apart in minimum from each other. We also noticed that the rules for preventing public gatherings have impacts on the livelihood of the people and that the government has adopted plans to provide support to the public and has been implementing them. We will continue to work as needed," end quote. Union Minister for International Cooperation U Jo-tin participated in the ASEAN-United States Ministerial Meeting, ASEAN-Canada Ministerial Meeting, ASEAN-Australia Ministerial Meeting, and ASEAN-New Zealand Ministerial Meeting, which were held via video conference on Friday morning from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Naypyidaw. During the ministerial meetings, the ministers reviewed cooperation between ASEAN and respective dialogue partners and exchanged views on future directions as well as regional and international issues. As Myanmar is the current country coordinator of ASEAN-Canada dialogue relations, Union Minister U Jo-tin co-chaired the ASEAN-Canada ministerial meeting with François-Philippe Champagne, Foreign Minister of Canada. In his statement delivered on behalf of the ASEAN member states, Union Minister U Jo-tin appreciated the steady growth in the ASEAN-Canada dialogue relations and significant progress in the implementation of the Plan of Action to implement the Joint Declaration on ASEAN-Canada Enhanced Partnership. The Union Minister highlighted possible areas of cooperation between ASEAN and Canada to strengthen dialogue relations based on inclusivity, equality, mutual respect, and mutual benefit. Locals in 28 townships of Yangon region have been ordered to stay at home as a measure to control the spread of COVID-19 disease. Ministry of Health and Sports has issued the order. Due to the increasing numbers of confirmed cases, people residing in some townships are required to live under the stay-at-home program in order to effectively control the spread of the disease. Kamayo Township is one of the townships included in the stay-at-home program. More than 50 COVID-19 confirmed cases have been found in Kamayo Township as of the 10th of September, since the outbreak of COVID-19 in the country, and 27 of them have recovered. Restaurants are also ordered to give only takeaway service in the region. And I believe it's time now for our first report. With a significant resurgence of COVID-19 started since the mid-August, the numbers of the confirmed cases are significantly rising to above 150 a day. As the COVID-19 infections in a resurgence increases daily, the Ministry of Health and Sports has scaled up contact tracing and testing capacity and adopted tougher rules to control the spread of the infections in the country. To control the spread of the infections, the Ministry of Health and Sports announced these 7 townships in the city to follow the stay-at-home orders last week. It has extended the stay-at-home order instructions to another 21 townships of Yangon on Wednesday. Let's take a look at the report.
With a significant resurgence of COVID-19 started since the mid-August, the numbers of the confirmed cases are significantly rising to above 150 a day. As the COVID-19 infections in the resurgence increases daily, the Ministry of Health and Sports has scaled up contact tracing and testing capacity and adopted tougher rules to control the spread of the infections in the country. In the current situation, all the cases from the cluster of cases which have emerged mostly in Yangon region, Rakhine State, and other regions and states in the country are facing the infections of the COVID-19 resurgence. Dr. Mate, regional representative from Line Township, spoke to MI Radio how the current prevention processes for the COVID-19 are carried out in the township under the COVID-19 Prevention Committee. She said,
As the announcement from the Ministry of Health and Sports, Line Township is one of the townships which have to follow the stay-at-home order. Line Township also has a large number of infections in the Yangon region. So, we are currently taking a strict control measure against all the people, especially in the markets, which have a lot of shoppers. As the shoppers have to work for their livings, they have to keep working in this situation. So we urge them to wear the masks and we fine them since on Monday to those who don't wear the mask. We also prepare some schools as the quarantine centers just in case. People neglect the infections as they have seen the infections in the previous months. But in this resurgence of the COVID-19, the infections are very rapid with no symptoms. People have to be cautious a lot.
To control the spread of the infections, the Ministry of Health and Sports announced the 7 townships in the city to follow the stay-at-home orders on 2nd September. It has extended the stay-at-home instructions to another 21 townships of Yangon on 9th of September. And other restrictions, the residents in the specified townships will need to remain in their townships. The government also conducted door-to-door screening for COVID-19 in the places which the cluster of the cases has emerged. The health survey was also conducted in wards and township which has several COVID-19 positive cases. Dr. Tan Aisut, Director of Health Knowledge Promotion Division from the Ministry of Health and Sports, explained to MI Radio.
As the cases have resurged back in the mid-August and many cases are found out among the close contacts and people who had arrived back from the Rakhine State. We can't say this situation as a second wave. This is a resurgence of the COVID-19, which is very important and dangerous situation. People are afraid of the infections as the confirmed cases increase up between 100 to 200 daily. To prevent this situation, people have to follow the rules. The people who had come back from the Rakhine State or who had the travel history during these days have to contact to the Ministry of Health and Sports immediately. The health workers are doing their best on these days. The Ministry of Health and Sports also released these important announcements for the people in time. Following the rules and regulations will be the best situations to all of us to prevent this full-blown so-called second wave.
Dr. A. Tan, resident from the Barbarian Township, spoke to MI Radio about how she worries about the current infection in the country.
The infection cases have increased a lot these days, so I'm worried that the infections would be worse. Because of these infections, we also faced a lot of impacts on the economic and social areas too. I'm pleased with the government's control over these situations, but people are still careless, so I want them to be more careful a lot in these days. I also want them to participate in the contact tracing.
Yangon region is the highest with the COVID-19 infections in the country among the regions and states. Rakhine State is the second and Mandalay is also in the third place. Since the 5th of September to the 11th of September, a total of 1,095 new cases have been found out within a week with new 8 deaths, and a total of 278 people are discharged from the hospitals. Myanmar is currently reported a total of 2,265 COVID-19 cases with 14 deaths and 625 recoveries. Only the Gaya state is the one without the COVID-19 cases since the March, when the COVID-19 very first cases was found out in the country.
That's the report on COVID-19 cases in Myanmar reached beyond 2,000. Meticulous research in May 2020 reported, among global economic trading, the impact of COVID-19 on the automotive industry is estimated to be around $5.7 billion. These incidents also threaten the automotive market in Myanmar, which is significant in the new vehicle market with a drop in demand. Especially the consumers delay their purchase in the months following the entry of COVID-19 into the country, reaching a 50% of normal purchases in July.
Starting from December 2019, the world was hit by the infectious disease named coronavirus. The pandemic has had a major impact on all aspects of industries, including the automotive sector. Many automobile manufacturers in the world are shutting down their operation due to the issues by health ministries around the world, although some industries have managed to run with minimal staff at production units. Among global economic trading, the impact of COVID-19 on the automotive industry is estimated to be around $5.7 billion decline due to disruption in automotive supply chain amid reduction in supplies from China, reported Meticulous Research in May 2020. These incidents also threaten the automotive market in Myanmar, which is significant in the new vehicle market with a drop in demand. Especially, the consumers delayed their purchases in the months following the entry of COVID-19 into the country, reaching at 50% of normal purchases in July. Currently, the trading in automobile market almost completely has stopped, according to U Win To'ao, chairman of Yangon Automobile Trading Association.
The government has extended the relaxation period of the income tax from 15% to 3% till December 2020. The trading in automobile market has almost completely stopped, especially in the time of the resurgence of the disease. The automobile market also relies on the orders and trading from regions and states. Even though the government does not prohibit the operation of automobile trading in showrooms, they demand many preparations for disease preventive measures. For the people, they are not considering buying the cars as a priority. Just before the resurgence, the autos under the price of 30 million just are in high demand. I think the automobile market completely depends on the conditions of the pandemic.
Some car dealers are rebooting the automobile market with price adjustments in response to the falling demand by selling 10% to 20% below the market price, while some remained selling at the market prices. In a bid to restore the market, the dealers are planning to do more selling on the basis of installment plan, giving price promotion and creating value-added services. U A Mei, Managing Director of Wing and Car Sales Center, also mentioned.
In June and July, the sales for the auto market a bit increased and about 50% of the normal sales remained in the market. But the trading is working with only the sales price or with price adjustments. Some showrooms are withstanding and not selling the autos because there is some amount of losses if they sell the current sale price. So despite them, the trading is a bit walkable till the start of August. We are also selling on the basis of installment, but some clients requested to suspend the installment period for some months, so we have to accept for that. Many clients sold the Japanese-made auto under the price of 20 million jets to 30 million jets, and they bought the new autos with 10 million down payment. This is the trendy way in currently.
The recovery of the market relative to that of the country's economy is likely to take 3 to 6 months in the good case or more than a year in the worst case. There will also need a fair amount of support from the government to boost the automobile market to the next level.
That's the report on dealers reboot automobile market by selling 10% to 20% below market price. The exporters expected to receive some orders from international market coming December and January. But now the resurgence of the disease makes the businesses in arts and handicraft sector stagnant. At the same time, the domestic handicraft market relies on the orders from the religious occasions, and pagodas are facing some tough conditions for long-term existence in the industry.
A number of tangible and intangible arts from the earlier century are still being preserved in Myanmar. At present, Myanmar's arts and crafts industry is under threat due to shortage of skilled labor and a drop in demand from home and abroad. Efforts are being made to develop the handicraft industry under a 4-year project from 2018 to 2022, with the aim for seeking increasing global demand. As a result, any domestic handicrafts, including marble carving, wood furniture, cane, bamboo, and other handicrafts, have been exported to the international market. Currently, in the wake of COVID-19, many small-scale and medium-sized businesses are severely facing the difficult situation. Mama Ang is deputy chairman of Myanmar Arts and Crafts Association. He told MI Radio the current conditions of handicraft export market.
The handicrafts export to international market has stopped completely at present. For the domestic handicraft market, some shops have been reopening since 2 months ago. At the time, the sale for is not so bad in the handicraft market. Now, the resurgence of the disease makes the handicraft shops be affected. Even though we have numbers of orders from international market, we can't purchase many handicrafts due to the policy. But to deal with the situation, we are submitting the proposal to the government. But now the pandemic occurs, we have stopped operating all these projects. As we can start operating the businesses for the sake of the staff, some workshops have invented the commodity handicrafts with fair price for domestic market. The buyers from Hong Kong are also interested in these commodity handicrafts, but we have difficulty in transportation and policy issues.
Mama Ang also added that they expected to receive some orders from international market coming December and January, but now the resurgence of the disease makes the businesses in arts and handicraft sectors stagnant. At the same time, the domestic handicraft market relies on the orders from the religious occasions, and pagodas are facing some tough conditions for long-term existence in the industry. Josonai, a craftsman cam handicraft shop owner, said,
Some shops still get orders for the gold leaf from the customers, but there are not many craft orders during this pandemic. But I'm still running my business for some pre-orders before. Most of the customer orders are Buddha statues and gold plating of nut statues, like Great Grandpa, Bomingong, and Bubu All. It is hard to say that our orders are coming from one specific region, as most of the customers are Buddhist people around the country.
Go Antu is a craftsman with over 20 years' experience in the arts and handicraft market. He shared the struggles facing the craftsmen during the pandemic.
Most of the orders from my customers consist of Buddha statues and others like elephants and horses, etc. The raw materials are really difficult to find these days as there is no more wood selling in the market. As there is no potential customers, there is no order of handicrafts for more than 4 months. Before COVID-19 period, I got moderate numbers of orders from my existing clients and there were not too much worry at all. My daily income was average 15 to 20,000 jets at that time. It is too difficult for me to earn a little amount of income for daily expenses. I am too worried about basic needs of my family.
It is a certainty that demand from local and international market would revive production of handmade goods and create jobs for the people. While the neighboring countries are making significant headways in the industry for handmade products, the country is making concerted efforts to penetrate into the global market. The government is working on the establishment of the Myanmar Arts and Crafts Center as part of efforts to find an export market for Myanmar arts and crafts.
That's the report on Myanmar's arts and crafts see decline in demand from home and abroad amid pandemic. Let's move on to the last report for today. The COVID-19 pandemic has an immediate impact on the financial health of our local arts organizations and individual artists. In the way of travel restrictions to gathering restriction for the health measures, with that said, we will find out how Mandalay's arts and crafts sector adapts new form amid COVID-19 pandemic and hear out the voices from various perspectives of the arts sector in Mandalay, including from the art training center trainer to street artists.
The COVID-19 pandemic had a sudden and substantial impact on the arts and cultural heritage sector. The global health crisis and the uncertainty resulting from it profoundly affected organizations, operations, as well as individuals, both employed and independent across the sector. Gozo Bombai, who is the trainer of Bantu Sanda Art and Crafts Training Center, also told MI Radio about the range of how COVID-19 impact on art and cultural heritage sector of Mandalay, which is of course the city of Myanmar's classical arts and culture.
Okay, COVID ကာလအတွင်းမှာတော့ကျွန်တော်ဒီဈေးကွက်အခြေအနေကတော့ online ပေါ်မှာ
In the current situations of COVID-19, the market for arts and crafts shifts from physical sales to online rather quickly. As an individual, I have also initiated an online market by opening a page to offer an online art classes to beginners and intermediate who would like to learn arts even amidst COVID-19 quarantine. On the side of arts markets in regards to sale, it is quite cold and still here in Mandalay, even though some artists trying to work around by uploading their artwork online and trying to set up a marketplace.
Gozo Bombai also added on regarding the online teaching and learning sector of art and how it works in this flow of COVID-19 resurgence.
As our center focuses mostly on training and teaching for art, some difficulties such as not being able to gather people become a strain for us to process the training classes with a chain interaction from physical to online classes. We have to face lots of different challenges from the trainee side and of course from the trainer side like myself. We have to adapt the new way of teaching, precise tutorial for trainees to follow through the whole section. But for the normal art say market, there might be even more challenges in regard of authenticity and the feeling of not being able to feel and sense or see the painting, drawing or art in real life for the potential customers might become a setback to purchase certain artworks.
Many individuals across the arts and crafts sector would temporarily or permanently lose contracts or employment, with varying degrees of warning and financial assistance available. We will look the art sector in other perspective. This time will be from Go Lai-Yi, who is an individual freelance street artist, for his perspective and how the COVID-19 circumstances impact the overall situation of his career.
As an individual freelance artist, the impact is huge for me in a negative way, as I solely depend on paying and giving service for each individual's project. The process of having a project or not is equal to how the potential customers of mine, such as restaurants, warehouses owners, etc., are having their regular income or not. It also became absolutely difficult to travel around the country, so most of the time I suddenly lose my contracts in these circumstances. For now, I am thinking on new ways to survive until the situation has been controlled. But you never know when it will end. So I will just be hoping for the best and try selling fast and easy aesthetic arts on street for now to sustain my everyday life.
With the voices from various perspectives from arts and crafts sector in Mandalay, we could make a verdict that the current situation of individual artists has been in the state of struggle until the situation eases for the good.
That's the report on Mandalay's arts and crafts sector adapts new form amid COVID-19 pandemic. Now to international news. The UK has been told by the European Union to withdraw a trade bill that its own government breaks international law over a Brexit agreement, or it could face legal action. The UK Internal Market Bill has further complicated the messy extradition process as Britain unpicks nearly 50 years of European integration and led European Commission Vice President Maros Sefcovic to head to London to demand clarification.
The UK says it's introducing the Internal Market Bill in this way to safeguard against a no trade deal scenario. In that situation, it wants to be able to set its own rules on things like state aid and on goods moving from Great Britain into Northern Ireland.
For the EU, the commitments made in the withdrawal agreement are a precondition for trade negotiations to take place. Those commitments include arrangements for Northern Ireland and on citizens' rights. If the UK overrides that legislation, the EU has said that will derail the talks and jeopardise any future trade deal.
London insists the bill is designed to secure ongoing peace in Northern Ireland and the integrity of the United Kingdom. And despite signing up to the deal in the first place, hailing it as a great deal, London now also says it was hastily put together.
The announcement of the UK's plans has been met with shock and anger in Brussels. There's a lack of trust and frustration that the last few years of negotiations appear to have been in vain. But there is still hope that a deal is possible and that resolution can be found through emergency talks.
The strategy from London may be to try and bounce the European Union into concessions and also to play hardball for a domestic Brexiteer audience. But given that American politicians are already warning that if Northern Ireland peace is threatened by this bill, there will be no US-UK trade deal, it's high stakes.
Authorities on Wednesday said 3 people died in a wind-whipped Northern California wildfire that has forced thousands of people from their homes while carving a 25-mile path of destruction through mountainous terrain and parched foothills. California Highway Patrol Officer Ben Draper told the Bay Area News Group that one person was found in a car and apparently had been trying to escape the flames.
our number one priority for this fire is the protection of life and property. We really need you to pay attention to any instructions on evacuation, as the fire is likely to move south towards 6 communities.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Thursday called for additional funding for the World Health Organization's ACT Accelerator program to support vaccines, treatments, and diagnostics against the coronavirus pandemic. Guterres, who spoke during an online event, called for $35 billion more, including $15 billion in the next 3 months. According to Guterres, about $3 billion has so far been contributed, but it is less than 10% of what the WHO wants for the program. That's all with the news and reports on Myanmar Today. Hope everyone is staying safe.